Rome. This ancient Italian city is infamous around the world. Its reach and influence throughout history is impactful. But there's another side to this infamous city, a darker side. Countless deaths and horrific tragedies have taken place here throughout the centuries, causing tales of hauntings to pop up. Today, we're going to be covering some of these hauntings, along with some haunting tales of my own, as I visited the city back in 2023. Without further ado, let's get into the ghosts of Rome. Starting off, we have the only known haunting by an emperor, Nero's ghost. Emperor Nero himself is infamous for many reasons, be it his long struggle for power with his mother, which ended after one of his many assassination attempts against her was successful, or his controversial way of ruling, which many say was tyrannical and corrupt, as well as his supposed role in the Great Fire of Rome, rumored to be started by him in order to make room for a new palace. Regardless, after a rebellion turned the people against him, Nero set out to end his own life. After losing his nerve, he forced his private secretary to do it. He was then buried in what is now the Villa Borghese area of Rome. It's reported that a tree sprouted near his tomb, whose branches were filled with black crows which were said to feast on flesh with demons and witches. The area around the tree reportedly has possessions, beatings, strangulations by unseen forces, and just an overall feeling of terror to passerbys. Eventually, the tree was torn down, and a church was built over Nero's tomb, which eventually became the parish Basilica of Santa Maria del Popolo. I walked by this place, and there's now a massive forested park area overlooking it, along with a fun little zoo. And I guess Nero's reign of terror has ended over these parts, because it was a very peaceful area. The catacombs that run underneath Rome are some of the oldest in the world. There are several that can go on for miles and house thousands of the dead. Suffice to say, there could be plenty of restless spirits wandering the tunnels. I went to the catacombs of San Sebastiano when I was in Rome, which was a great experience. These tunnels have an eerie air about them, and are barely tall enough to walk in. There's a bunch of steep stairs and several drop-offs into darkness as you walk by. I could feel the sort of charged air in certain spaces, so it's not really a stretch for me to believe that it's haunted. I went to a few others as well, and one I specifically remember is the Capuchin Crypt. This collection of small churches underground holds the bodies of 3,700 Capuchin friars, whose bones all line the wall. The atmosphere and imagery of the thousands of bones all produce a feeling of eeriness and death when you visit, and I could definitely feel, that there might be some lingering spirits there. Of all the places in Rome, the Colosseum is definitely one of the bloodiest. This ancient structure has seen so much bloodshed, fights, and deaths behind its walls, so it's not really surprised that there's been a plethora of reported hauntings. The vast majority of reports are of apparitions. One in particular is very prominent, that of a lone Roman soldier still standing guard outside the Colosseum. Others have reported a ghostly audience filling the seats and hearing their cheers, as well as the cries and moans of injured gladiators that have long been dead. Valeria Messalina was the third wife of Emperor Claudius, and is largely known for her promiscuous behavior, as well as using her power against several family members and others to have them either killed or banished. She was eventually killed after the emperor turned on her, convinced she was plotting against him with her lover. It is said that her ghost has been spotted near Claudius's tomb, and that she likes to pinch young men's butts at Piazza Navona, and luckily I did not get a visit from Valeria when I went there. It's said that in the early 1600s, a young woman named Costanza Conti de Cupis was known for her perfect set of hands, said to be the most beautiful hands in Rome. Yes, she was one of the first hand models. The artist Bastiano made a plaster cast of them, which he displayed, causing people to flock to it. One day, depending on the legend, either a foreigner or a local friar declared that the owner of the real hands would soon lose them. And this caused Costanza to order the cast to be destroyed, and she refused to leave her home and became very paranoid. And unfortunately, she would prick her hand while sewing. The wound soon became infected and turned into gangrene, and they ended up amputating one of her hands, but she died shortly after. It's now said that the apparition of her hand can be seen in the windows of Palazzo de Cupis on full moon nights. Beatrice Cenci was a young noblewoman who lived in the late 1500s. Growing up with an abusive father, she tried to ask others for help, but no one helped. Eventually, the stepmom's two brothers, two other men, and Beatrice decided to kill her father. They were successful, but unfortunately their plot was soon discovered and they were all executed. And since then, if you go to the bridge leading to Castel St. Angelo, on the night between September 10th and the 11th, it is said that you might see a young woman walking the length of the bridge, holding her head in her arms and weeping. If you walk by the Ponte Sisto Bridge on the 7th of January, you might have to jump out of the way of a speeding black carriage barreling down the bridge. This is said to be the ghost of Donna Olympia, or the Pimpasia. She was the sister of Pope Innocent X. Donna was ruthless, manipulating politics, events, and even the Pope. She amassed a vast fortune by doing these things until the Pope died on January 7th, 1655. In the hours after, she filled 2 cases full of gold and fled town in her black carriage. After being banished from Rome, she eventually died 2 years later from the plague. And now, every January 7th, she can be seen repeating her flight out of town, until the apparition crashes into the Tiber River, disappearing below the frigid waters. If a stranger comes up to you near Castel St. Angelo and offers you a pinch of tobacco, you might be face to face with Rome's most prolific executioner, Giovanni Battista Bugatti, better known as Mastro Tita, who killed over 500 convicts in his service as executioner. People have reported seeing him walking in the old execution sites, dressed in his usual garb consisting of a scarlet cloak. It's also said that his victims wander the sites they were executed, crying out in pain. And before we wrap up, I'd like to head down south and tell you about my experience in Pompeii. I arrived early in the morning, around 9 a.m., and there was a slight drizzle and chill in the air as I entered the ruins. As I walked further in, I saw less and less people. And soon I was completely alone, but I could swear that someone was walking next to me. I didn't see any apparitions or feel any ghostly hands on me, but I'm pretty sure that there were spirits there. And I wandered for about half an hour and didn't see anyone. And it honestly felt like I was completely alone in the city as I wandered its ruins, and I could feel this sort of energy around me. And after some time, it seemed like my hearing returned as I heard actual voices and found crowds of people roaming about. And you could say that I just luckily avoided the crowds, that I was just in, some secluded part of the ruins, but I still can't shake the feeling that perhaps I'd gone somewhere. And that experience is still one of my most unexplainable, paranormal situations. And one that I look back on quite fondly. Rome and Italy itself is steeped in a long and bloody history. It's not really a surprise that many restless spirits wander the streets and catacombs of that ancient city. And let's just hope that we continue to remember them and not to get too spooked by the memories of our own past. Thank you for watching. As this is my first video for this channel, I'd appreciate any feedback you have for me. I'd love to make videos about hauntings and other paranormal happenings around the world, and even share more stories of my ghostly encounters in different places that I've been. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.